You are 67 years old. You worked for 40 years. You did everything right. You showed up. You saved. You raised your kids, paid your mortgage, and put something away every month into an account you didn't touch because someone told you not to touch it. Now you're retired. And for the first time in your adult life, the paycheck stopped. That's not a crisis. That's the plan working. But here's what nobody tells you at the retirement party. Between the cake and the handshakes and the card everyone signed, the threats don't stop when the work does. They change shape. This is everything you need to know to protect what you built. Start to finish. No fluff. No products to sell you. Just the information. Chapter 1. The money you have and what's actually trying to take it. Let's start with the most important number you need to understand, your withdrawal rate. You have a nest egg. Maybe it's $300,000. Maybe it's $800,000. Maybe it's $1.4 million. The number matters less than what you do with it. The old rule was 4%. Take out 4% of your total savings per year, and your money should last 30 years. That was the research from 1994. It held up reasonably well for a long time. Here's the problem. That research assumed a specific mix of stocks and bonds, a specific market environment, and a specific inflation rate. Inflation has not been specific or cooperative lately. At 3% annual inflation, your dollar loses half its purchasing power in 24 years. At 6% inflation, that happens in 12 years. You're not just protecting a number, you're protecting what that number can buy. Those are two completely different things, and most retirement planning focuses on the first one and ignores the second. So before we talk about threats from the outside, understand the quiet threat that lives inside every savings account. Time and inflation working together, silently, every single day. What do you do about it? You don't panic. You adjust. A portion of your portfolio needs to grow. Not speculate, not gamble, grow. That means some exposure to assets that historically outpace inflation. Equities, real estate investment trusts, Treasury inflation-protected securities, which people call TIPS. If everything you own is sitting in a savings account earning 1.5%, you're not being safe. You're being slowly eaten. Safety in retirement doesn't mean no risk. It means the right kind of risk, calibrated to your timeline and your needs. Talk to a fee-only fiduciary financial advisor, not someone who earns a commission when you buy something. Fee-only means they charge you directly. Fiduciary means they're legally required to act in your interest, not their firm's. That distinction will save you money. Chapter 2. Social Security. What you're getting and what you might be leaving behind. You paid into Social Security your entire working life. Decades of FICA deductions on every paycheck. This is your money in the most direct sense. Most people leave significant money on the table because they claim at the wrong time. Here are the numbers. If your full retirement age is 67 and you claim at 62, you receive 30% less per month for the rest of your life. If you wait until 70, you receive 24% more per month than your full retirement age benefit for the rest of your life. The break-even point, the age where waiting pays off more than claiming early, is usually around 80 to 82. If you're in good health, if you have family history of longevity, if you don't desperately need the income right now. Waiting often wins, but that's not universal. If you're in poor health, if you have no other income, if claiming early allows you to not touch your investments and let them keep growing, early claiming can be the right choice. The math is genuinely personal. Do it with a calculator that accounts for your specific benefit amount, your health, your other income sources, and your spouse's situation. Because here's something most people miss: spousal benefits. If you're married, your spouse can claim up to 50% of your Social Security benefit if that's higher than their own. If you die first, Your surviving spouse steps up to your full benefit amount if it's higher than theirs. This means your claiming decision affects two people and two lifetimes of income. It is one of the most consequential financial decisions you will make in retirement, and most people spend less time on it than they spend choosing a television. Spend time on it. Chapter 3. Medicare. The coverage gap nobody warns you about. You're on Medicare, or you're about to be, and you assume you're covered. You're covered for a lot. You are not covered for everything, and the gaps are not small. Original Medicare, Part A and Part B, covers hospital stays, doctor visits, and many medical services. It does not cover prescription drugs, dental care, vision care, or hearing aids. Pause on that list. Dental, vision, hearing. The three things that most commonly deteriorate as you age. Not covered. You are on your own unless you add coverage. Part D covers prescriptions. Medicare Advantage, Part C, bundles everything together and often includes dental and vision through private insurers. Medigap, also called Medicare Supplement Insurance, fills in the cost-sharing gaps of original Medicare. These aren't just bureaucratic categories. They represent real money. The average senior pays $5,000 to $7,000 out of pocket per year on healthcare costs, even with Medicare. A serious illness, a hospitalization, a surgery with complications can run into tens of thousands of dollars in cost-sharing charges under original Medicare alone. The annual deductible for Part A, the hospital portion, resets every benefit period, not every year. If you're hospitalized twice in 1 year with different benefit periods, you pay the deductible twice. And there's no out-of-pocket maximum under original Medicare. That's not a typo. There is no cap. Your costs can technically be unlimited. This is why Medigap exists. It puts a ceiling on your exposure. Review your coverage every year during open enrollment. Your health changes. Your medications change. Plans change their formularies. The coverage that made sense at 65 may not be the best option at 72. Don't auto-renew without checking. It costs you nothing to compare. It could cost you thousands not to. Chapter 4. The Fraud Economy. They are coming for you specifically. This is the part people skip because they think it won't happen to them. It happens to people who think it won't happen to them. Seniors lose over $3 billion a year to financial fraud in the United States. That number is probably low because most fraud goes unreported. The shame stops people from telling anyone. There is nothing to be ashamed of. These operations are sophisticated. They are run by professionals. They are designed by people who understand psychology and who practice their scripts thousands of times. They are not calling random numbers. They are targeting you specifically because retirement accounts are large, because seniors often live alone, and because loneliness is exploitable. Let's go through the most common ones. The grandparent scam. Your phone rings. Someone is crying. "Grandpa, it's me. I'm in trouble." You fill in the name because they don't give it. "Don't tell Mom and Dad. I'm so embarrassed." They need money immediately. Wire transfer, gift cards, cash to a courier who comes to your house. The person is not your grandchild. The emergency is not real. The money is gone permanently. The rule is simple. Hang up. Call your grandchild directly on a number you already have. Every time. No exceptions. No matter how convincing it sounds. The Medicare scam. Someone calls claiming to be from Medicare, saying your card is being upgraded, that new benefits are available, that there's been suspicious activity on your account. They need your Medicare number to verify your identity. Medicare will never call you unsolicited. Never. If someone does, hang up and call 1-800-MEDICARE directly. The IRS and Social Security scams. You owe back taxes. Your Social Security number has been suspended. You must pay immediately or be arrested. These agencies do not call you. They send letters. They do not demand gift cards. They do not threaten immediate arrest. Hang up. The romance scam. This one is the most painful to talk about and the most destructive. Someone meets you online, on a dating site, sometimes on Facebook. They are attractive, attentive, interested in everything you say. The relationship develops over weeks or months. They have never been able to meet in person, always something that comes up. Then they have a crisis. They need money. They're overseas. They can't access their account, just this once. There is no person. There is a professional, often working in a building with dozens of others, managing multiple victims simultaneously. The money sent is never recovered. The loss is not just financial. If someone you've met online and never seen in person asks for money, the answer is no. Every time. Protect yourself with systems, not just vigilance. Put a credit freeze on your file with all 3 bureaus. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. It's free. It means no new credit can be opened in your name without you lifting the freeze first. This stops identity theft at the source. Sign up for informed delivery from the USPS so you can see images of your incoming mail before it arrives. Fraudsters steal physical mail. Review your bank and credit card statements every week. Not every month. Every week. Fraud caught in days is recoverable. Fraud caught in months often isn't. Chapter 5. Your home. The asset and the vulnerability. For most seniors, the home is the largest asset they own. It is also one of the most targeted. Let's talk about what can go wrong and how to prevent it. Contractor fraud. You need a repair. Someone knocks on your door, or you call a company from an ad, and they quote a fair price. You pay up front. They do minimal or no work. They disappear. Never pay more than 10% up front to a contractor. Never pay in cash. GDK lets someone pressure you into a same-day decision. Get 3 quotes. Check licenses through your state contractor licensing board. Check reviews on multiple platforms. If someone comes to your door unsolicited after a storm offering to inspect your roof, this is almost always a scam. A real roofing company does not need to canvass GDK. Deed fraud. Someone files a fraudulent deed transferring ownership of your home GDK. They then take out loans at GDK or try to sell it. This sounds impossible. It happens regularly. Sign up for property alert services through your county recorder's office. Most counties offer free alerts that notify you by email or text anytime a document is recorded against your property. Set this up today. Reverse mortgages. These are not inherently fraudulent. They are legitimate financial products that are frequently misunderstood and sometimes misrepresented. A reverse mortgage allows homeowners 62 and older to borrow against their home equity without making monthly payments. The loan is repaid when you move out, sell the home, or pass away. What's left after the loan is repaid goes to your heirs. What many people don't fully absorb is that the loan balance grows over time as interest accrues, that you're still responsible for taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and that if you fail to pay those, the loan can come due immediately. Reverse mortgages can be the right tool for the right situation. They are often oversold to people for whom a different solution would work better. Before signing anything, get independent counseling from a HUD-approved housing counselor. This is required by law for federally insured reverse mortgages, and it's worth doing regardless. Chapter 6. Estate planning. The conversation nobody wants to have, and why you have to have it. You have built things over a lifetime. A home, savings, possessions with meaning, a vision for what happens to those things when you're gone. Without the right documents, that vision is irrelevant. The state has its own vision. It's called intestacy law, and it distributes your assets according to a formula that has nothing to do with your wishes. Here are the documents you need. Not someday, now. A will. This directs who receives your assets. Without it, a judge decides. The process is public, slow, and expensive. With it, you decide. A durable power of attorney. This authorizes someone you trust to handle your financial affairs if you become incapacitated. Without it, your family may need to go to court to get the authority to pay your bills or manage your accounts while you're unable to. A healthcare proxy, also called a healthcare power of attorney. This authorizes someone to make medical decisions on your behalf if you cannot make them yourself. Without it, doctors are left guessing, and family members may disagree, sometimes bitterly, about what you would have wanted. An advance directive, also called a living will. This documents your specific wishes about end-of-life care. Do you want to be on a ventilator if there's no realistic chance of recovery? Do you want aggressive intervention or comfort care? These are your decisions to make. If you don't make them in writing, someone else will make them under pressure, in a hospital hallway, without complete information about what you wanted. A trust. Not everyone needs one. People with significant assets, blended families, property in multiple states, or a desire to avoid probate often benefit from a revocable living trust. It keeps your estate out of probate court, provides privacy, and allows for more nuanced control over how and when assets are distributed. Talk to an estate planning attorney. Not a general practice attorney who does a little of everything. An estate planning specialist. Review your documents every 3 to 5 years, and immediately after any major life change. A marriage, a divorce, a death in the family, a move to another state. Laws change. Your situation changes. Your documents need to keep up. Also, review your beneficiary designations separately. Your retirement accounts, your life insurance policies, your annuities pass directly to whoever is listed as beneficiary, regardless of what your will says. People have left retirement accounts worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to ex-spouses because they never updated the form. The will did not override it. Check every account, every policy. Do it this week. Chapter 7. The people around you, the hardest risk of all. Elder financial abuse is most commonly committed by family members. That sentence is hard to read. It is harder to say out loud. It is the truth. Adult children, grandchildren, caretakers, people who live in the home or who have been given access out of trust. They are statistically the most likely source of financial exploitation. This is not because families are evil. It is because access plus financial pressure plus the assumption that you won't report it creates a situation that some people exploit. Warning signs. Unexplained withdrawals from your accounts. Bills not being paid despite having enough money. Sudden changes to your will or power of attorney, especially when you're in a vulnerable state. A family member who isolates you from other relatives or friends. Pressure to sign documents you haven't had time to review. What do? Keep control of your own financial accounts for as long as you are able. Online access, statements, monthly reviews. Have a trusted person outside your immediate household who knows your financial situation at a high level. Not the details, just enough to notice if something seems wrong. If you have concerns, call your local adult protective services. If you're not sure whether what's happening rises to that level, call anyway. They can help you assess it. And build in friction. Require 2 people to authorize large transactions. Set up alerts for withdrawals over a certain amount. Give power of attorney to someone, but retain oversight through bank alerts. The goal is not to distrust your family. The goal is to build systems so that the people you trust don't face a situation where temptation is easy and detection is hard. Chapter 8. Your health. Because without it, none of this matters. No retirement plan survives a catastrophic health crisis that wasn't planned for. Long-term care. This is the planning gap that destroys more retirement plans than almost anything else. Medicare does not cover long-term care. Let that land. Medicare covers short-term skilled nursing care after a hospitalization. It covers rehabilitation. It does not cover the ongoing assistance with daily activities that many seniors eventually need. Bathing, dressing, managing medications, moving safely through their own home. The median annual cost of a private room in a nursing home in the United States is now over $100,000. Home health aid services run $50,000 to $75,000 per year for part-time help. Assisted living facilities average $50,000 to $60,000 per year. You have three options. Long-term care insurance purchased before you need it, ideally in your 50s or early 60s when you're still insurable and premiums are lower. Many people in their 70s find this option is no longer available to them or is priced beyond reach. Self-funding, meaning you have enough assets to pay for care out of pocket. This requires significant savings and means accepting that a portion of your estate may be consumed by care costs. Medicaid, the government program for long-term care, which requires spending down your assets to very low levels before eligibility kicks in. Medicaid planning is a legitimate legal specialty. Attorneys who practice it can help you understand what assets can be protected and through what legal structures. None of these options is comfortable. Choosing the least bad one for your situation requires honest accounting of your health history, your family history, your assets, and your risk tolerance. The only wrong choice is to make no choice, because that leaves your family with no plan, making decisions under pressure in the worst possible circumstances. Stay active. Exercise is the single most evidence-supported intervention for maintaining cognitive and physical function in aging. Not aggressively, consistently. A 30-minute walk 5 days a week does more for your retirement than most financial products. Maintain your social connections. Isolation is a health risk with measurable mortality effects comparable to smoking. It also dramatically increases vulnerability to fraud and depression. The people around you are not separate from your retirement plan. They are part of it. Chapter 9. The conversation with your family. Everything in this guide requires one thing to actually work. You have to talk to your family. Not a general conversation, a specific one, with documents, with account information, with the names of your attorney and financial advisor, with the location of your important papers, with a clear statement of your wishes. Most families never have this conversation, not because they don't love each other, because nobody wants to start it. You start it. You're the one who built the estate. You're the one who knows where everything is. You're the one who has a clear picture of what you want. The alternative is leaving your family to figure it out after you're gone, or after you're incapacitated, without information, under grief and stress, sometimes in conflict with each other. Tell them where your will is. Tell them who your power of attorney is. Tell them the name of your financial advisor and your estate attorney. Tell them your wishes for your health care. Tell them what matters to you about how your assets are distributed. You don't have to share every dollar amount. You do need to share enough that the people who love you can act effectively on your behalf if they need to. Do it before you think you need to. Chapter 10. The Final Accounting. You are 67 years old. You worked for 40 years. You did everything right. You showed up. You saved. You raised your family and paid your bills and made countless small decisions that added up to a life. The retirement protection system in this country was not designed to be simple. Medicare is complicated. Social Security is complicated. Estate law is complicated. Fraud is sophisticated. Long-term care planning requires you to make projections about your own mortality and health that nobody wants to make. But complicated is not the same as impossible. You understand more now than you did 25 minutes ago. There are 5 things to do before this week is out. Call a fee-only fiduciary financial advisor if you don't already have one. Review your Social Security claiming strategy, especially if you haven't yet claimed. Check your Medicare coverage and compare it against alternatives during the next open enrollment window. Place a credit freeze on your file with all 3 bureaus: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Free, takes 20 minutes, stops identity theft. Review your estate planning documents and your beneficiary designations. If they're out of date, make the appointment. That's the list. Not 10 things. Not 20. 5. You built a life worth protecting. The protection doesn't happen automatically. It happens because you decided to pay attention. The machine doesn't stop. Inflation doesn't stop. Fraudsters don't stop. Time doesn't stop. But neither do you. Start this week. You watched the first part. You took notes, or you meant to. You thought about your accounts, your documents, your family. Maybe you made one phone call. Maybe you didn't make any yet. That's fine. This is where we go deeper. Because there's more. There's always more when the subject is protecting everything you spent a lifetime building. What we covered in part 1 was the foundation, the withdrawal rate, Social Security timing, Medicare gaps, the fraud economy, your home, estate planning, the people around you, long-term care, the family conversation. What we're covering now is everything underneath that foundation. The things most retirement guides skip because they're complicated, or uncomfortable, or because the writer assumed you already knew. You might not. Either way, this is the information. Chapter 11, Taxes in Retirement. The bill that never stops. Most people think about taxes the way they think about the dentist. You deal with it when you have to, and you try not to think about it in between. In retirement, that approach is expensive. Your income in retirement comes from multiple sources, and each one is taxed differently. Social Security. Required minimum distributions from your IRA or 401k. Withdrawals from a Roth account. Pension payments. Dividends and capital gains from taxable investment accounts. Part-time work. Rental income. The combination of those sources determines your tax bracket each year. And the bracket you're in determines how much of your Social Security is taxable, whether you pay a surcharge on your Medicare premiums, and what you owe every April. Let's start with Social Security and taxes because this surprises more people than anything else. Up to 85% of your Social Security benefit can be taxable. Not 85% of it is automatically taxed. Up to 85% can be included in your taxable income, depending on your combined income. Combined income is your adjusted gross income, plus non-taxable interest, plus half of your Social Security benefit. If that number exceeds $34,000 for a single filer, or $44,000 for a couple filing jointly, up to 85% of your Social Security is included in your taxable income. These thresholds were set in 1983 and have never been adjusted for inflation. In 1983, very few retirees hit them. Today, most retirees with any savings hit them. This is not going away. Plan for it. Now let's talk about required minimum distributions, which most people call RMDs. If you have a traditional IRA, a 401k, a 403b, or most other tax-deferred retirement accounts, the IRS requires you to start taking withdrawals at age 73. The amount is calculated each year based on your account balance and a life expectancy factor from IRS tables. Here's what catches people. RMDs are taxed as ordinary income. They are added to everything else you receive that year. If you also have Social Security, a pension, and some investment income, a large RMD can push you into a higher bracket, increase the taxable portion of your Social Security, and trigger the Medicare IRMA surcharge, which we'll get to in a moment. If you miss an RMD, the penalty used to be 50% of the amount you should have taken. The Secure 2.0 Act reduced that to 25%, and down to 10% if you correct it quickly. Still significant. Set a calendar reminder. Better yet, have your financial advisor or account custodian handle it automatically. The Medicare IRMA surcharge is the thing nobody tells you about until the bill arrives. IRMA stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. It's an additional premium added to your Part B and Part D costs if your income exceeds certain thresholds. The income used is from 2 years prior. So your 2026 Medicare premiums are based on your 2024 income. In 2025, the standard Part B premium is around $185 per month. If your income is high enough, that premium can more than double. This is not an error. It is the system working as designed. Roth conversions are one strategy for managing this. If you have money in a traditional IRA and you convert some of it to a Roth IRA, you pay income tax on the conversion now. The money then grows tax-free and comes out tax-free in retirement. More importantly, Roth withdrawals do not count toward your combined income for Social Security taxation purposes, and they do not count toward the IRMA calculation. Converting in the years between retirement and age 73, when you have no RMDs yet and potentially lower income, can reduce your future tax burden significantly. The math is genuinely case-specific. Run it with a tax professional. Qualified charitable distributions are another tool. If you're 70 and a half or older and you have an IRA, you can direct up to $105,000 per year directly to a qualified charity from your IRA. This counts toward your RMD, but is not included in your taxable income. If you're charitably inclined, this is almost always better than taking the distribution and then donating the after-tax proceeds. The tax conversation is not separate from the retirement protection conversation. Every dollar in unnecessary taxes is a dollar that isn't there for your care, your family, or your security. Hire a CPA who specializes in retirement taxation, not a tax preparer who files your return, a strategist who plans ahead. Chapter 12. Investment risk that grows with age. The sequence problem. You've probably heard that you should shift your investments to be more conservative as you age. Less stocks, more bonds. Less risk, more stability. That's partially right. The reasoning behind it is partially right. The execution of it, for many people, is wrong. Here's the concept you need to understand. Sequence of returns risk. The order in which you experience investment gains and losses matters enormously in retirement. Not just the average return over time, the order. Here's why. Imagine two retirees. Both start with $500,000. Both experience the exact same average annual return of 6% over 20 years. But their returns come in different orders. Retiree A has strong returns in the early years and poor returns later. Retiree B has poor returns in the early years and strong returns later. If they both withdraw $30,000 per year, retiree A's money lasts the full 20 years. Retiree B runs out of money in year 14. Same average return, different order, wildly different outcome. Why? Because when you withdraw money during a downturn, you're selling shares at low prices. You have fewer shares left to benefit from the recovery. The math works against you in a way it doesn't when you're still accumulating. This is why the first 5 to 10 years of retirement are the most critical period for your portfolio. A significant market decline early in your retirement is far more damaging than the same decline 20 years in. What do you do about it? First, maintain a cash buffer. 1 to 2 years of living expenses in cash or cash equivalents, completely separate from your investment portfolio. When markets are down, you draw from the buffer instead of selling investments at depressed prices. When markets recover, you replenish the buffer. Second, be deliberate about the order in which you draw from different accounts. General guidance suggests drawing from taxable accounts first, then tax-deferred accounts, then Roth accounts last, because Roth money continues to grow tax-free and has no RMDs. But this interacts with your tax situation in complex ways, and the right order depends on your specific circumstances. Third, consider a bucket strategy. Divide your assets into 3 buckets. Short-term bucket, 1 to 3 years of income in very stable assets. Medium-term bucket, 3 to 10 years in moderate growth assets. Long-term bucket, 10+ years in growth assets. You refill the buckets from right to left as the longer-term buckets grow. Fourth, know your floor. Calculate the minimum monthly income you need to cover essential expenses. Social Security plus any pension should ideally cover that floor. If it doesn't, consider whether an annuity makes sense to guarantee that baseline before you put anything else at risk. Speaking of annuities. Chapter 13. Annuities, the most misunderstood product in retirement. Annuities have a complicated reputation. Some of that reputation is deserved. Some of it isn't. Let's separate what they are from what they're not. An annuity is a contract with an insurance company. You give them money. They promise to pay you a stream of income, either immediately or at a future date, for a period of time, or for the rest of your life. The concept is straightforward. The products are not. There are dozens of annuity types. Fixed annuities, which pay a guaranteed interest rate. Variable annuities, which invest in sub-accounts that perform like mutual funds. Fixed indexed annuities, which tie returns to a market index with downside protection. Immediate annuities, where you hand over a lump sum and income starts right away. Deferred income annuities, sometimes called longevity insurance, which pay income starting at a future date, like 80 or 85. Each type has legitimate uses. Each type is also capable of being sold inappropriately, at high cost, with features you don't need and charges you didn't fully understand. The problems with annuities are not inherent to the products. They are inherent to how they're sometimes sold. Variable annuities in particular have historically been loaded with fees. Annual expenses of 2%, 3%, even higher when you add up the insurance charges, the investment management fees, and the rider costs. A 3% annual fee on a $400,000 annuity is $12,000 per year coming out of your returns. Over 20 years, at a 6% gross return, the difference between 3% fees and 0.5% fees is over $300,000 in lost wealth. Read every fee disclosure, every single one. If someone can't explain every charge clearly, that is your answer. The legitimate case for a simple income annuity is this. If you're worried about outliving your money, if you have no pension, if Social Security alone doesn't cover your essential expenses, a portion of your savings converted to guaranteed lifetime income gives you a floor that the market can't take away. The key word is portion. Annuitizing everything removes flexibility. Annuitizing nothing leaves you exposed to longevity risk. Most financial planners suggest annuitizing enough to cover your essential expenses in combination with Social Security, then leaving the rest invested. Never buy an annuity from someone who approaches you unsolicited. Never buy at a free lunch seminar. Never buy before you've had an independent advisor review the contract. And never surrender an existing annuity to buy a new one without getting a written analysis of the costs and benefits, because the person recommending the switch often earns a commission on the new product. Chapter 14. Downsizing. The decision that changes everything. At some point, the house you raised your family in becomes the house you maintain for a family that doesn't live there anymore. 4 bedrooms. 2 of them are storage now. The yard you loved is a job. The stairs are starting to feel different at 3 in the morning. Downsizing is one of the most significant decisions in retirement. It's also one of the most emotional. And because of that, it often doesn't get made rationally. Let's make it rational. The financial case for downsizing is often compelling. If you sell a home you've owned for 30 years and buy something smaller, you may free up substantial equity. That equity can fund retirement, reduce financial stress, or be positioned to pass to your heirs. The current tax exclusion allows individuals to exclude up to $250,000 in capital gains from the sale of a primary residence, and up to $500,000 for a married couple filing jointly, provided you've lived in the home for at least 2 of the last 5 years. If your home has appreciated significantly, plan for the taxes on any gains above those thresholds. A smaller home means lower property taxes, lower utility bills, lower maintenance costs, and often lower insurance premiums. The reduction in ongoing costs can free up hundreds of dollars per month for the rest of your retirement. But the financial case alone isn't the whole decision. There's the question of where. Moving to a lower cost of living area can amplify the financial benefit dramatically. Moving from a high-tax state to a state with no income tax and lower property taxes is a financial decision that deserves a real analysis. Not a vague sense that it might be cheaper. Actual numbers, tax by tax, cost by cost. There's the question of when. Real estate markets fluctuate. Selling in a down market reduces the equity you capture. Waiting can be worth it financially, but you can't always control timing. Health, family circumstances, and market conditions all create pressure. There's the question of what? Senior living communities. Continuing care retirement communities, which offer independent living, assisted living, and skilled nursing on one campus. Age-restricted communities, condominiums, townhomes. Each has a different cost structure, a different level of maintenance, and a different community dynamic. And then there's the question you might not want to answer yet. What happens when staying in your home is no longer safe? That question is better answered before it's urgent. Many people resist this conversation until after a fall, after a health event, after something happens that removes the choice from the conversation. By then, decisions are made in crisis, under time pressure, with fewer options. Have the conversation early. Visit communities before you need them. Understand the entry costs and the monthly fees. Ask what happens if your care needs increase. Ask what the exit process looks like if you need to leave. Ask whether the community is nonprofit or for-profit, and what that means for its long-term stability. The best communities have waiting lists. You cannot get on those lists from a hospital bed. You get on them now, while you have time. Chapter 15. Digital Assets and Online Accounts. The Hidden Estate. Your estate attorney drafted a beautiful will. It covers your house, your investment accounts, your jewelry, your car. It says nothing about your Gmail account, your Facebook, your cryptocurrency wallet, your online brokerage, your PayPal balance, your digital photos stored in the cloud, your passwords. This is not a minor oversight. It is an increasingly significant gap as more of life, and more of financial life, moves online. Let's start with the practical. Write down every online account that matters. Financial accounts, email, social media, subscription services, digital storage. For each one, write down the username and where to find the password. Store this list securely. A password manager with emergency access granted to a trusted person is one approach. A physical document in a fireproof safe with clear instructions is another. The question of cryptocurrency deserves its own paragraph. If you own Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any other cryptocurrency, and you die without leaving your heirs a way to access the wallet, those assets are gone. Not transferred, not frozen. Gone. Forever. Because the blockchain doesn't know who your heirs are. It only knows whether you have the private key. If you own cryptocurrency, your heirs need a way to access it. The private key, the seed phrase, the hardware wallet device, the exchange credentials, whatever is required. This is not optional documentation. This is the asset. Back to accounts more broadly. Facebook and Google and Apple have legacy contact or inactive account policies that allow designated people to manage your account after death. Set these up. It takes 15 minutes and it saves your family from months of bureaucratic frustration trying to access or close accounts they can't get into. Your email is more important than most people realize. When your financial institution, your insurance company, your brokerage, your Medicare plan all need to contact your estate, they often do it by email. If your heirs can't access your email, they miss those communications. Subscriptions are also worth mentioning. Most people have more subscriptions than they realize. Streaming services, software, news sites, storage, Apps. After death, these continue billing the credit card on file until someone cancels them. A list helps. So does a dedicated credit card for subscriptions that your executor knows to close. Chapter 16. Working in Retirement. The option more people are choosing. Retirement used to mean a hard stop. Friday you worked. Monday you didn't. The watch, the cake, the party, and then silence. That model is changing, and not just because people have to work. Many people choose to work, or choose forms of work that look nothing like the jobs they retired from. Let's talk about the implications. If you're receiving Social Security before your full retirement age, and you earn wages above the annual earnings limit, your benefit is temporarily reduced. In 2025, that limit is around $22,320. For every $2 you earn above it, $1 is withheld from your Social Security benefit. After you reach full retirement age, this limit disappears completely. You can earn any amount without reduction. The withheld amounts are not lost. They're credited back to you in the form of a slightly higher benefit after full retirement age. But the timing matters for cash flow planning. If you're on Medicare and you return to work at a company with 20 or more employees that offers health insurance, you may be able to delay Medicare Part B and avoid those premiums while you're covered by employer insurance. This is a legitimate strategy with specific rules. Verify the details with Medicare before making assumptions. Part-time work, consulting, freelancing in a field you know, seasonal work, tutoring, teaching, coaching. These aren't just income strategies, they are engagement strategies. Research consistently shows that people who maintain purposeful activity in retirement have better cognitive outcomes, better physical health, and higher reported life satisfaction than those who fully disengage. The identity question is real. For people who built their sense of self around their career, retirement can feel like loss. The person who was a surgeon or an engineer or a principal for 35 years and then stops abruptly can find themselves without a clear answer to the question of who they are now. This is not weakness. It is a natural response to a major transition that our culture celebrates without adequately preparing people for. Part-time or flexible work gives structure. It gives social contact. It gives a reason to get dressed. For many people, it also gives a reason to feel useful, which matters more than most retirement plans account for. If the income is a bonus rather than a necessity, use it strategically. Put it in a Roth IRA if you're eligible. Use it to delay Social Security claiming. Use it to build up the cash buffer we discussed. Chapter 17. Protecting your credit in retirement. The attack surface. You've worked your whole life to build good credit. Now you don't need it in the same way. You're not buying houses or cars on credit the way you once were. Here's the problem. Not needing credit doesn't mean you can ignore it. It means someone else might be using it. Identity theft is extremely common among seniors for a predictable reason. Seniors often have excellent credit, substantial assets, and check their credit less frequently than people in active borrowing phases of life. That combination makes them attractive targets. A credit freeze, as mentioned in Part 1, is the single most effective tool. It prevents new credit from being opened in your name without your authorization. It costs nothing to place and nothing to lift when you actually need it. Set the freeze at all three bureaus: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Also consider freezing your file at Check Systems, which handles bank account applications, and at the NCTUE database, which some specialty GGA use. Also place a freeze at the major credit bureaus on behalf of any deceased family members whose information you manage. Yes, people open accounts in the names of the deceased. Yes, it happens regularly. Check your credit report at least once per year at annualcreditreport.com, which is the official free site. Look for accounts you don't recognize, inquiries you didn't initiate, addresses you never lived at. Any of these can signal that someone is using your identity. Sign up for free credit monitoring through your existing credit card issuers. Most major cards offer this now and will alert you when a new inquiry appears or a new account is opened. If you do discover fraudulent accounts, file a police report. File a complaint with the FTC at identitytheft.gov, which provides a personalized recovery plan, and contact the fraud departments of the relevant institutions directly. Act quickly. The longer fraudulent activity sits on your file unchallenged, the harder it becomes to resolve. Chapter 18. Your mental and cognitive health. The risk that changes every other plan. Everything in this guide assumes that you are able to make decisions. Cognitive decline changes that assumption gradually, quietly, and often without you being the first to notice. This is not a comfortable subject. It is an essential one. Mild cognitive impairment affects a significant portion of people over 70. Dementia, including Alzheimer's, affects approximately 10% of people over 65, and almost a third of people over 85. These numbers are not meant to frighten. They are meant to illustrate that planning for cognitive decline is not pessimism. It is actuarial realism. The financial risks of cognitive decline are severe. People in early stages often become more susceptible to fraud. The judgment that protected them begins to erode before anyone is named what's happening. They make financial decisions they wouldn't have made before. They respond to scams that previously they would have dismissed immediately. They miss bills. They make duplicate payments. They give money to people they shouldn't trust. By the time a diagnosis is made and legal steps are taken, significant financial damage may already be done. What do you do while you're fully capable? Get your legal documents in place. We covered this in Chapter 6. The power of attorney, the healthcare proxy, the living will. These documents allow the right people to step in at the right time without a court battle. Have a conversation with a trusted person about what changes in your behavior or finances would trigger them to raise a concern with you directly. Not behind your back, with you. You can even write it down. Here are the things that would concern me. Here is who I want you to talk to if you notice them. Consider adding a trusted contact to your financial accounts. This is different from a beneficiary and different from a power of attorney. It's a person your financial institution can contact if they have concerns about activity on your account, without giving that person any authority over your money. Many brokerages now offer this option. Build in friction on large financial decisions. Tell your bank that you want a cooling-off period built into significant transfers. Tell your financial advisor you want a second opinion required for any major changes to your portfolio. Talk to your doctor. Cognitive assessment is available. It is not routinely offered unless you ask. And early detection opens options that aren't available once decline has progressed. Take your cognitive health seriously as a physical health matter, not just a financial one. Sleep, exercise, social engagement, control of blood pressure and blood sugar, avoidance of excessive alcohol, and mental stimulation are all associated with reduced risk of cognitive decline. This isn't wishful thinking. It's the research. You're still here. 2 parts in. 45 minutes of information most people spend a lifetime never getting in one place. You've covered the foundation. You've covered the infrastructure underneath it. What's left is everything that falls through the cracks of every other retirement guide. The relationships, the systems that break down slowly, the decisions that seem small until they aren't, the conversations nobody is willing to start because they're waiting for you to start them. This is that part. Chapter 21. Your insurance portfolio. The policies you have and the ones you're missing. Most people in retirement treat insurance like smoke detectors. You know you need them. You assume they work. You haven't checked the batteries in years. Let's check the batteries. Pull your homeowner's policy first. Construction costs have risen dramatically in recent years. A policy that was adequate in 2015 may now be significantly underinsured for what it would actually cost to rebuild your home after a fire or major disaster. Call your insurer and ask for a current replacement cost estimate. If you've made improvements or additions, those need to be reflected. If there's a gap between your coverage and the current rebuild cost, close it before you need it. Add an umbrella policy if you have significant assets. The liability portion of a standard homeowner's policy is often $100,000. That number sounds large. It is not. A serious accident on your property, a slip and fall, a dog bite that leads to a lawsuit can exceed that quickly. An umbrella policy provides an additional $1 million or more in liability coverage for a relatively modest annual premium. If you have meaningful savings in a home, an umbrella policy is one of the cheapest protections available. Now your life insurance. If you have a permanent life insurance policy, a whole life or universal life, check the current projections. Universal life policies from the 1980s and 1990s were built on interest rate assumptions that were never realized. People have discovered their paid-up policies were about to lapse because nobody reviewed them in 20 years. Pull the policy, call the insurer, ask for a current benefits summary and projections through your life expectancy. If you have long-term care insurance, read what you actually have. A $150 daily benefit purchased in 2005 looked adequate then. The current median cost of a private nursing home room now exceeds $350 per day. If your policy has no inflation protection built in, your coverage has been quietly falling behind every year since you bought it. If you're struggling to afford the premiums, call the insurer before you let it lapse. Most are required to offer alternatives. A reduced paid-up option gives you lower benefits in exchange for no further premiums. It is better than losing everything you've already paid in. Chapter 22. Helping aging parents while protecting yourself. Many people reading this are not only managing their own retirement, they are also managing or beginning to manage the affairs of a parent who is aging. The costs of caregiving are significant and almost always underestimated. Lost wages, reduced hours, dipping into your own savings, delaying your own contributions. Document the care you provide, not to charge your parent, but because when questions arise about their finances, and they often do, documentation protects you from accusations of financial exploitation. It also protects your parent by creating a record of what care was provided and when. Have the money conversation with your parent before there is a crisis. Most adult children don't know the actual financial picture of their parents. Ask directly, with compassion and without judgment. Where are the important documents? Who is the power of attorney? What do you want if you can no longer make decisions for yourself? These questions feel intrusive until they become urgent. Once they're urgent, not having the answers is a genuine crisis. The driving conversation is one of the hardest. A parent who should not be driving but still is, represents a risk to themselves and to others. Don't ambush. Don't take the keys without a conversation. Approach it as a safety concern you share, not a judgment about their competence. Involve the primary care physician. Many doctors will address driving capacity as part of a regular appointment if the family asks in advance. Have the alternative transportation solution ready before the conversation, because without it, the conversation goes nowhere. One thing to understand clearly about the law: a parent who is competent, even if not fully capable, retains the legal right to make their own decisions, including ones you disagree with. You can ask. You can advocate. You can document your concerns. You cannot legally override their choices while they retain capacity. Guardianship through probate court is the legal mechanism for overriding someone's decision-making when they're no longer competent and don't have the right documents in place. It is expensive, slow, public, and emotionally exhausting. It is the last resort that earlier planning is specifically designed to prevent. The documents in Chapter 6 exist so nobody ever has to go there. Chapter 23, the healthcare system. How to navigate it without getting lost. Medicare tells you what's covered. Nobody tells you how to use it. The difference between knowing your benefits and successfully navigating the system is larger than most people realize, and the gap costs money, health, and sometimes more than that. Ask this question every time you are admitted to a hospital. Am I being admitted as an inpatient or placed under observation status? This is not a minor distinction. Medicare only covers skilled nursing facility care after a qualifying inpatient hospital stay of 3 days or more. Observation days don't count toward that threshold. People have received enormous skilled nursing bills because their hospital stay was classified as observation status, not inpatient admission, even though they stayed in a hospital room for several days. Ask on day 1. Get the answer in writing if you can. Your medications. Write a complete list of every drug you take, prescription and over-the-counter, including supplements and vitamins. Include the dose and the prescribing doctor. Bring this list to every medical appointment, every specialist visit, every emergency room. Drug interactions in seniors are a significant and preventable cause of hospitalizations. You are the only person in the healthcare system who knows everything you're taking. Be the one who communicates it clearly. Medicare Part D formularies change every year. The drugs covered and the pricing tier they're placed on can shift with annual contract renewals. Your $30 medication can become a $180 medication when the formulary updates, and nobody calls to tell you. During Medicare open enrollment, October 15 to December 7, use the Medicare Plan Finder at medicare.gov to compare your current plan against alternatives. Enter your actual medications. Get the actual projected total cost for the year. The plan with the lowest premium is frequently not the plan with the lowest total cost for your specific drug list. Run the real numbers. Preventive screenings covered by Medicare are consistently underutilized. Colorectal cancer screenings, mammograms, bone density scans, cardiovascular screenings, lung cancer screenings for qualifying smokers. Many are covered at no cost to you. Check which ones you're due for and schedule them. Chapter 24. Inflation-proofing your retirement, staying ahead of it. Inflation is the slow disaster that no single event announces. There is no phone call. There is no press release. It happens one grocery trip at a time, one utility bill at a time, one insurance renewal at a time. Your Social Security has a cost of living adjustment tied to the Consumer Price Index. In years of high inflation, it has been meaningful, but it is not guaranteed to match your personal inflation rate, which depends on what you actually spend money on. Healthcare inflation consistently runs higher than overall CPI. If a large portion of your budget is healthcare, your personal inflation rate may be higher than the national average that determines your COLA. Fixed income investments, certificates of deposit, savings accounts, traditional bonds do not automatically keep pace with inflation. A 4% CD sounds good until inflation is running at 5%. You earn a positive return and lose ground simultaneously. Treasury inflation-protected securities, called TIPS, are U.S. government bonds whose principal adjusts with inflation. They are not exciting. They are functional. The inflation-adjusted principal grows when the CPI rises, and your interest is calculated on that adjusted principal. They belong in the conversation for anyone building an inflation-resilient portfolio. I-bonds, issued directly by the U.S. Treasury, offer a rate composed of a fixed component plus an inflation adjustment that resets every 6 months. There are annual purchase limits, but they are a legitimate direct inflation hedge for a portion of your savings. Review your portfolio with your financial advisor, specifically through the lens of inflation exposure. Not just return, not just risk tolerance. What percentage of your holdings are likely to keep pace with inflation over your expected retirement horizon? What happens to your purchasing power if inflation averages 3% or 4% over the next 20 years? Run those numbers. Then decide whether your current allocation is protecting you or leaving you quietly exposed. Chapter 25. The 2025 Fraud Landscape. What's getting worse? The fraud patterns from Part 1 are still operating. They've also evolved in ways that make them harder to detect than ever before. Voice cloning is now the most dangerous evolution of the grandparent scam. A fraudster needs as little as 3 seconds of your grandchild's voice, collected from a public social media video, to generate convincing audio. The grandparent scam now comes with audio that passes every test your ear can run. You hear the voice. You believe the voice. You send the money. The defense is a family code word. A word or phrase only your immediate family knows, agreed upon in advance, that must be provided in any emergency situation before any money moves. The technology can clone the voice. It does not know the code word. Set this up with your family this week. QR code fraud. You receive a piece of mail or see a notice that appears to come from Medicare, the IRS, or your bank, with a QR code directing you to verify your account or claim a benefit. The code leads to a fraudulent site designed to capture your credentials and account information. Never scan a QR code from an unsolicited source. If a service you use genuinely needs you to go somewhere, type the address directly into your browser. Crypto ATM fraud. You're instructed by phone or text to go to a cryptocurrency ATM and deposit money, to pay a fine, to secure your social security number, to help a family member in an emergency. Legitimate government agencies never instruct you to deposit money at a cryptocurrency ATM. This is a scam every single time without exception. Hang up. AI-generated personalized fraud. Scammers now use data from public sources, social media, property records, professional profiles, to craft messages that feel specific to you. The email references your actual bank by name. The letter includes your real address. The specificity that once indicated legitimacy no longer does. The 4 behaviors that stop the overwhelming majority of fraud attempts, regardless of how sophisticated the technology gets. Never act under pressure. Legitimate institutions give you time. Never send money before verifying through an independent channel. Never provide credentials or account numbers in response to inbound contact. Tell someone you trust before you make any financial decision prompted by an unexpected communication. Those 4 behaviors are the defense, not technology, not suspicion. Behavior, consistent every time. Chapter 26. The Adult-Children Conversation. One more time. We covered the family conversation in Part 1. It deserves one more pass here, because the most common reason it doesn't happen isn't reluctance. It's not knowing how to start it. You start it. You're the one who built the estate. You're the one who knows where everything is. You're the one with a clear picture of what you want. The alternative is leaving your family to figure it out without information, under grief and stress, sometimes in conflict with each other. Here is the minimum they need to know: the name and contact information of your attorney, your financial advisor, your accountant, and your primary care physician. The location of your important documents, not necessarily the contents, just where they are. The name of your bank and your primary investment accounts. Your wishes for your care if you are unable to express them. That is a 30-minute conversation. Most families never have it. You don't have to share your net worth. You don't have to explain every decision or justify every allocation. But the people designated to help you need enough information to actually help you. Operational information, not an audit. If your estate plan might surprise your children, consider writing a personal letter to accompany your will. Not a legal document, a human one. An explanation of your thinking, in your own words, that they receive after you're gone. It doesn't obligate you to justify your choices. It gives them context at a moment when context matters most. Chapter 27. The life you're actually protecting. You've spent the better part of an hour on risk and documents and accounts and fraud and taxes and plans within plans. It's worth stopping here and saying what all of this is actually for. It is not for the spreadsheet. It is not for the estate. It is not for the number in the account. It is for the Tuesday afternoon. The one with no particular agenda. Coffee that's actually hot because nobody is rushing you. A book you've been meaning to read since 2 day and 9. A grandchild who is learning something complicated that you understand deeply. A friend you haven't seen in 2 years who you actually called. A meal you cooked slowly because you had the time. Retirement is the only period of your adult life where you have, in theory, the time to live it on your own terms. The reason we protect it so carefully is so that it stays Judah. Every scam that succeeds, every unreviewed Medicare plan, every unfiled beneficiary designation, every unwritten advance directive, every conversation that didn't happen is a piece of that Tuesday being taken away. Sometimes a small piece. Sometimes, in the cases that go badly wrong, everything. You've spent 40 or 50 years building something, not just accounts, a life, a family, a set of values about what matters. The work in these 3 parts is the work of protecting that. The people who come through the hard moments in retirement, with their finances and their dignity intact, are not the luckiest ones. They are the most prepared ones. Not perfectly prepared. Nobody is perfectly prepared. Prepared enough. Thoughtful enough. Engaged enough to have done the work when the work was optional rather than urgent. That is the goal. Do the work. The machine doesn't stop. There is one more thing. Everything in the previous 3 parts assumed you have time to prepare. Time to call the attorney. Time to update the beneficiary forms. Time to have the conversation with your family. Most of the time you do have time. That's the point. You're reading this now, which means you still have time. But there is a version of this that arrives without warning. The diagnosis, the fall, the cognitive decline that someone else notices before you do. The moment where the window for preparation closes and the window for consequences opens. This chapter is about what happens then, when there is no plan, what your family faces. If you have no will, your state decides who gets what. The formula is called intestacy law. It follows a hierarchy of relatives that may or may not reflect your actual wishes. A stepchild you raised gets nothing. An estranged sibling may inherit. The court doesn't know your life. It follows the statute. If you have no power of attorney and you become incapacitated, your family cannot access your accounts, pay your bills, or make financial decisions on your behalf without going to court. The process is called conservatorship. It takes months. It costs thousands. It is public record. It is supervised by a judge who does not know you. Every significant financial decision requires court approval for as long as the conservatorship lasts. If you have no healthcare proxy and you cannot speak for yourself, doctors turn to whoever is present. If family members disagree, the disagreement happens in a hospital hallway, under pressure, without guidance from you. People have been kept on life support against their expressed wishes because those wishes were never written down. People have been denied the death they wanted because the document that would have protected them was never signed. These are not rare outcomes. They are the default outcomes when planning doesn't happen. The one thing that changes everything. If you have done nothing else after everything in this guide, do this one thing. Tell one person where your documents are. Not a detailed financial briefing, not the full family conversation. Just one person, one phone call, one sentence. My will and power of attorney are in the top drawer of the filing cabinet in the office. That's it. That sentence, delivered to the right person, can prevent months of legal chaos and thousands of dollars in unnecessary costs. If the documents don't exist yet, make the appointment this week, not this month, this week. An estate planning attorney can draft a basic will, a durable power of attorney, and a healthcare proxy in a single meeting. It takes 2 hours. It costs a few hundred to a few $1,000s depending on complexity. It is the highest return investment available to you right now, measured not in dollars, but in protection for everything you have built. The last word. You came to this guide for information. You stayed for 3.5 hours because something in you understood that this matters. It does matter. Not in the abstract, in the specific. Your accounts, your home, your family, your wishes, your Tuesday afternoon. Somewhere right now, a scammer is working a phone list. A Medicare plan is about to change its formulary. An estate is going through probate because nobody signed the document. A family is arguing in a hospital hallway because nobody had the conversation. None of that has to be your story. You have the information. Now use it.